There's a few things that give a game solid exploration, but we may as well start at the beginning. Transportation, or as I like to call it, expediting. Looking at other open world games notorious for expedition, we have Marvel's Spider-Man, GTA 5, and A Short Hike. 3 games that are, practically the same. Now, I haven't actually gotten around to playing A Short Hike, so don't necessarily take my word on it, but I've heard an unending amount of times how much people love the movement mechanics of this game. And that's what this section's all about, movement. These 3 games all have one thing in common, fun movement. There's never a dull moment when playing Spider-Man because web slinging never gets old. In fact, I could honestly just swing for hours going nowhere in particular, and that's what makes it special. Same with GTA 5. You could drive around Los Santos or even fly your boat around and never realize an hour pass. Even when these games give a fast travel option, when you're in no rush to start a mission, there's never a moment where I wouldn't rather fly or swing or drive into oncoming traffic there instead. Now, how does Tears of the Kingdom fare in this? Well, with Ultrahand, we're given a lot of power to explore. You can build a car, boat, or even plane yourself to go anywhere. All it takes is just a few button clicks here, a few button clicks there, and a few more over there, and one more right there for good measure. Okay, well, that sounds a lot. How about we just use auto build? You know, that works good enough. Let's try building a rocket bird. Oh, and we're at a zonite. That's on me. Fine, I'll just ride our horse over there instead. Oh, and we're too far away from any stable, and my horse is all the way across the map. I'm just gonna teleport. Even if you're an avid Ultrahand user or a jockey, I feel like a good portion of that scenario has applied to you before. And I don't mean to say I dislike Ultrahand, far from it. Sky exploration wouldn't be nearly as fun as it is if we just had a bird summon rather than building it ourselves. And if you can't fly to a target, then it's all on you to figure out how to get there a different way. But overall, with the Ultrahand building mechanic, it seems it's only a hook for about half the player base. Personally, I could hardly drag myself to bother building vehicles for regular Hyrule travel. But then I know there's millions of people that live on the steering stick. So while Ultrahand travel may be a good reason for many to explore, it doesn't work for everyone. Okay, what then? So one mechanic often impossible in regular games when compared to open world games is the ability to choose how you see the story. A good example of this could be the original Legend of Zelda. While thousands of games let your choices determine the flow of the story, it's not often that you can do basically whatever you want in just about any order you want. In the original Legend of Zelda on NES, you have to complete every dungeon to access the final dungeon. But, for the most part, you can complete them in any order you choose. While there's a few dungeons that require a different dungeon's item to access it, it's not all dungeons, and you get to make all these discoveries on your own. When we had an open world game that provided this kind of freedom all the way back in the 80s, you might wonder why most open world games still follow a pretty traditional storytelling method. While you can often access the entire map at any time, games like Spider-Man and GTA again still have missions only playable in a linear order and opt out of the complete freedom given in other games. Why do they do this?
Demon King? Secret Stone?
Secret Stone? Demon King?
Demon King. Secret Stone.
Oh, that's right. Non-linear storytelling has a lot of flaws, and since you could never truly know what order a player's gonna choose to explore the story, you're often led to make each event less eventful. If you miss one major story beat, that could completely offset the entire game. I've already done a video on this, which you can check out in the description after this video, but for now, non-linear storytelling still needs a lot more work done to be executed perfectly. So while it might be a draw for those who loved the original Zelda, sometimes you can't completely trade classic storytelling for a fully open experience. So what else allows Tears of the Kingdom to nail the open world exploration? Well, beyond the things that make a great open world game, there's several other mechanics that make this game so amazing, but still not perfect, which is why this video is a smaller piece of the much larger, unreasonably long Tears of the Kingdom review. Sort of a spiff on Arlo's Big Fat Reviews. And if you want to see that unfold, subscribe and hit the bell. And if you just want to see Nintendo in general, stay tuned because we have everything in store. Well, surely for games like these to be good, they need a present threat. Something to encourage us to do everything, finish the quests, free the people. Well, if you've seen my other videos, then you know if that were the case, I couldn't call Tears of the Kingdom the perfect open world. But why is that? Well, Tears of the Kingdom doesn't have a present threat. I mean, we know Ganondorf is somewhere being all mummied and the like, and parts of the world are in danger, but when you're walking around in the flowers, you don't really feel it. And in that case, I don't think you need to feel it. I think Tears of the Kingdom would be a whole lot better if you could better understand the threat of Ganondorf, but there's something about this game that makes it so good despite that. Imagine if Tears of the Kingdom was just a linear game, where you go to Kakariko, then you do the 4 regional phenomena, then you do the other thing, then you go into your fight with Ganondorf. The game would be far more disappointing then, because we never truly get to see the power this guy holds. In Ocarina of Time, after the 7 years, you get to see firsthand all the havoc caused by Ganondorf. While here in Tears of the Kingdom, you deal with the 4 phenomena, and while they're all more or less caused by Ganondorf, besides Eldin, it's not entirely clear what his role is in all of this. So, for the story to really be perfect, I think Ganondorf would need a little more pizzazz, to say the least. But even then, the game is still great despite that. Next, something often discussed when talking about open world game design is the 40-second rule. Essentially, every 40 seconds there should be something to do, an enemy counter or a side quest. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom follow in line with this rule, but I think they bring a spin to it. Instead of just having the 40-second rule, they also have what I call the Squirrel Rule. You'd be going along your way to recover your Nobo, then Squirrel, you see a cave and go right away inside. Or you're flying down to the surface from the sky until Squirrel, you're entering a construct fight. Or you're on your way to find this floating Zelda, then Squirrel, you nosedive into a massive gaping hole in the surface. It's not even voluntary at this point. You could be walking in Forest Meadow and just get pulled into a random side quest by chance. And it's very similar to the 40-second rule, but these games revel in the perfection to squirrel anyone. The Squirrel Rule is massive for Tears of the Kingdom's open world success, but that's only a part of it. Sometimes you just want to go straight to your objectives without any meandering along the way. Do I understand those types of people? No, but they exist. So, an open world needs clear objectives, right? Well, with that build up, I'm gonna say yes and no, because these games have something very special that separates each playthrough beyond just the order you take the 4 regional phenomena. But on the subject, does there need to be clear objectives? Well, it should be possible to know where you need to go without looking up a tutorial. That's something I feel I should be able to say without consequence. Back with Zelda NES, it wasn't always easy to understand where to go with just the game alone, and that was partly in design and partly from the limitations of the era. Nowadays, it feels like most video games have to baby you through the entire game, and that's just unnecessary. I think the best type of open world would allow you to play the game without necessarily knowing what to do, but giving you the ability to find out easily enough. For example, in Breath of the Wild, for your first playthrough, you could entirely ignore Kakariko Village, where Input tells you what you need to do and where to go, and instead just go wandering trying to figure it out yourself. I mean, for a game like Elden Ring, I still have no clue what to do. But I'm not going to blame the game for that, because they took a stand to not pamper to the vocal minority of people who needed to pop up every 10 seconds explaining how to beat a puzzle. In Tears of the Kingdom itself, I even had an experience like this on my first playthrough. Once I got off the Great Sky Island, I know everyone had told me to go to Lookout Landing, but I was so excited to see how the world changed, so I ventured off to Kakariko Village instead. No paraglider, no towers. Once I got there, I got to learn of so many different questions and discoveries. I lost my mind when I saw Pai as chief, and then I started unraveling the question of where's Impa. If I went to Lookout Landing, I could have easily discovered relatively early what was happening. But instead, because of the path I decided to take, I learned of everything in a whole new way, and that's what makes it so good. I'm sure 90% of people who played the game went to Lookout Landing without even really planning on exploring elsewhere. But then for the 10% who went off on their own journey, they got to see the world through a whole new light. But don't worry, to that 90% of people, Nintendo still made sure to practically guarantee your own type of story. Think back to Breath of the Wild. There was one simple quest in the corner of a town you never needed to actually explore that led to arguably the best moment of the entire game. And that, I'm sure you're all aware, is bolstering construction into building Terry Town. This one string of quests led to the happiest moment in Breath of the Wild, and most people didn't even come near it in their first playthrough. Breath of the Wild had a handful of quests like this, but it wasn't often to come across highlights like this. However, in Tears of the Kingdom, there are dozens of crazy quests like this. Quests I don't even know yet because I haven't had the time to stumble across them, but every single one of us has had their own story to tell with these games. This game nails the open world experience because of the great transportation mechanics. This game nails the open world experience because of the ability to choose what to do, when to do it. This game nails the open world experience because of the fantastic main quests. This game nails the open world experience because of the Squirrel Rule. Oh, definitely because of the Squirrel Rule. And this game nails the open world experience because of the reason to explore in the first place. In most other games, exploration would be the means to an end, to get to the next mission, or to find the items you need. You explore to get the reward in the end. But in Tears of the Kingdom, exploration is the reward. Tears of the Kingdom nails the open world experience. And did you know you could nail your YouTube experience by subscribing and checking out some of my other videos? If you're all in for Zelda, check out my video on the left discussing the possible canon of Zelda. And if you want to see what I expect from Super Smash Bros. 6, check out the video on the right. And if you like some of the non-Nintendo music in this video, check out Cade. And make sure to scrub underneath your fingernails. And as always, keep cool. Bye!